it's 2:05. I think we're going to get the panel started, and hopefully our final panelists will show up. But if not, we'll still bring you a little tiny discussion.
Come on, Alex.
Yeah, hoping that Alex joins us. So we'll just start with like real quick intros for everybody. I do want to,
Hi, sorry, I'm here.
No, that's perfect. It's
perfect. Just
great timing.
Congratulations.
Just about to start. I think it was here that we got.
I traded places with you, so I can more easily get up the stairs.
I'm totally okay with that.
But yeah, so I was thinking, and I'm going to start off just by saying that we're all going to do our little intros, and I think everybody's going to share a little bit about themselves. But obviously, like given the content of the panel, I want to make it clear to everybody who's here, and also who may answer questions or anything like that, that we're going to be a cool space where people can share about their experiences without necessarily having to share like stuff that's too personal for them or anything like that. I think that's a good just kind of ground rule to set, just because I think this is going to be a good space where we can have a cool discussion about stuff like that. But yeah, so I was thinking to get started, we could do each one of us talking a little bit about ourselves and our experiences that made us interested in being panelists on this, and also a favorite costume that we've done as just kind of a fun little intro. So I can start. My name is Nate. I'm going to be the mod today. I use he, him, or they, them pronouns. I am someone who has some experiences with both like chronic health disability as well as neurodivergence, and have been cosplaying for about a decade. One of my favorite costumes that I have done is Rain Whispers from the Owl House. In part because I play the viola, and for those not familiar with the show, they're a character that also does, and so I have a little prop one that I bring with me at conventions, and that's been a lot of fun. And I guess maybe we'll start from the end and then go down, if that sounds good?
I think so. My name is Katie. I have, of course, issues also with being neurospicy. ADHD makes things interesting some days. My staff is both for the character of my Maleficent, but also a nice, very useful walking mobility aid. My favorite costume is my current costume. I am finding interesting things when I get new things to help me in my life that make it an interesting thing to adjust my costume.
Hi.
Push to talk, push them. Green light is on, you are talking.
Thank you. See, I've never done this before, obviously. Hi, I'm Alex, or you can call me Bed. So I have depression, ADHD, and actually in 2009 I got in a bad motorcycle accident where I lost partial vision. I broke my back and my neck, so that still really bugs me to this day. But that was kind of still the same year that I really took cosplay to that next level of just having to enrich my creativity. And I built my first, it was like a full Halo set of armor, and to this day I still love it. It obviously fell apart by now. But I think I made a second one after that, and that's still probably my favorite costume because I put a fan in it. And you know, like Connie gets so hot, and like you would think a helmet makes it hotter, but you put air conditioning in those things, it's amazing. So yeah, that's my spiel. Thank you.
If you want, you could bring masks down so we can talk.
Yeah, it does help a little bit with, I think, audibility, which we do want to try to help with. So I hope that's okay with everyone. But
Can everyone? Wait, am I on?
No.
No, listen to the button. Yeah, so I'll have button.
we can.
How's that? No? That's better? Aha, I'm on. Okay.
That's a last but very much not least over here.
Sorry.
No.
Hi guys, I'm Michael Wilson, or Knightmage. Been cosplaying since 2012. I do stuff from chronic pain issues, but mainly I'm very big into using cosplay as
empowerment through like mental and physical capabilities. Also am in law enforcement, 23 years deputy sheriff, so I'm a school resource officer there. And I do a lot of different charity events, especially with different Make-A-Wish and Ronald McDonald House, so dealing with a lot of physical issues, dealing with children too. So I always love to use cosplay as a way to empower that way.
All right, so the first question I was going to field at our panelists, and I'll hop in on some of these myself as well, is what is the core of cosplay to you, and are there any specific reasons it appeals to or interests you as a disabled person? So I know I can kind of start. For me personally, I feel like that ability to embody characters that I really love, first of all, is something that appeals to me because with some of the I'm autistic, I'm ADHD, the special interest, hyper-focused zone is real, so there's an element of it being really affirming to be able to dress up as characters from these things that my brain is super focused on. But another thing that I have found with cosplay is I feel like it's such a wonderful community for learning to create in, and as somebody who has various limitations that can make that difficult with executive functioning, even sometimes physical and exhaustion type stuff, I really appreciate that it's a community where I feel like I've been able to find resources and friends and encouragement to do things that would definitely have been challenging for me otherwise, and I really love that.
I also have ADHD and deal with some chronic illnesses. I love cosplay because, first of all, my favorite holiday is Halloween, so I grew up dressing up, and getting to do it as an adult is a great way for me to get my anxiety to shut up for a little bit and go, hey, why don't we, instead of stressing out about things we can't control, let's just stress out about the costume. At least then there's an end to it when it's done.
Yeah, for me, I've always actually kind of been an artist, and that just seemed like it kind of was the evolution of just being even more creative and making 2D things into a 3D thing that you can wear and then become. And then, yeah, I know a lot of it is I love some of the characters and their goofiness and their silliness, and sometimes it is really fun to just embody that, and just having that entire package is, I think, yeah, why I love cosplay so much.
Yeah, for me, I think the embodiment, definitely. It's being able just to step outside of your comfort zone, to be someone else. Kind of when you're a kid and you'll put sunglasses on, you're invisible now, right? Mm-hmm. So now, you put a costume on, you stand a little bit taller, you just feel different, you feel a little bit more confident. It's very empowering. Also the representation. I love being able to step outside that box and show the representation that a lot of people don't have. So yeah, that's probably the two main reasons why I love cosplay.
Yeah. So the next one I was going to have us talk about is how has disability impacted your experience as a cosplayer, as well as what are some ways that you've kind of found around that, and what are some things that maybe remain challenging that we want to talk about? And I'll let somebody else go first on this one if they want. But.
I'll go first.
Yeah.
So I love having hearing aids because I can hear, but I've discovered that my really cool cowl doesn't work as is right now. I've discovered it keeps pushing my hearing aids out of my ear, and it's really irritating me, which is why I pulled it off. So I discovered that next year I need to do something different. And my corset is great, not just for looks, but I have back problems, so it works better than a traditional medical one because it's actually made for my very short self. At 4'10", it is not easy to find stuff that actually fits me.
So for me, the vision right away, So I like to wear a lot of masks and helmets, and having the glasses can always be a challenge because contact lenses just don't really work because I have depth perception already. So I don't know how that works.
Yeah, same.
And then it's just, yeah, I mean, that's probably like my biggest one.
For me, actually, it's probably the social interaction. Before cosplay, very introverted, and I found once I got into cosplay that like the cosplay community and this convention community, it's a very, very social hobby, right? But full of socially awkward people. But that's why we all understand and get one another. And being in it, and the more I do it, it's actually helped me at my career in law enforcement because it's helped me be more empathetic. It's helped me see different aspects of, different people and be able to interact. So I think that's the biggest thing that's helped me is just the socializing.
Yeah, no, that's something that I found really interesting with cosplay as well, and really helpful for me. I know, because I also definitely have social anxiety, various reasons that I haven't always been as great at social interaction. And what you're talking about is very real, and I feel like there's an additional component for me with costumes are so great for communicating interests to people. Because one of my big things has always been that it's hard to find people who are interested in the same things as me, and especially that are as excited about them as me. But often if you see somebody who's wandering around in a homemade costume, they've got a pretty, or even totally store-bought, that they've done some fun stuff with it, they're embodying the character. Like, people are often quite invested in the characters that they're dressed as, and in the media that they're from, and so it's a great sign that I can go up and start a conversation with that person. So yeah, that was something that was making me think of too with what you were talking about. I know as far as my kind of own answer for this question goes, I was thinking about it, and one of the biggest challenges for me is with the ADHD in particular, time management and executive functioning, and actually being able to plan out what I need to do for a costume and get stuff done can be such a challenge. I'll have so much motivation in the sense of really wanting to do a thing, but really struggle with the, now I need to pattern it out, now I need to cut the fabric, now I need to make my mock-up, now I need to, and all of the steps involved. And it's been a mixed bag with that, because on the one hand, one reason I love cosplay is I feel like it's encouraged me to improve at some of those things, because I have these costumes I really want to make, and suddenly there's kind of an additional motivation outside of just learning the skill. But at the same time, it can definitely make it more challenging. So much of my experience as a cosplayer has been about learning to balance that interplay of interest and executive dysfunction.
I'm laughing not at you, but at I get it, thank God for
Yes.
my housemate who can make me go, hey, you wanted to do this thing, let me help you be your body double. As ADHD people know, sometimes you just need somebody else in the room to go, hey, let's go back on the focus. We can talk, but let's also focus. And that can be a challenge some days.
Yeah, I have found that kind of experience of working on costumes with friends or with other people to be extremely valuable in that regard. And sometimes it's because I'm actually learning skills from them, but sometimes we're just kind of coexisting in the same room, both working on projects, and I'm like, oh, well, they're working on something. I should work on something too. And that's really, really valuable. So it's one reason I love and appreciate all my cosplay friends.
I always tell people, if you've never done cosplay, sometimes the best thing to do is start with a group.
Yeah, absolutely.
Find a good Facebook group, hook up with some friends, and join in. Sometimes, especially if you're doing charity events, so it's easier to kind of blend in with everyone than just coming out on your own, because then you feel like all eyes and the focus is on you. But if you're in with a group, you can kind of sort of just kind of blend in a little bit, get your feet wet, and then when you feel a little bit more confident and stuff, then go off, branch off on your own.
Yeah, and groups can offer really fun opportunities too. I know another thing that can be additionally really motivating is when people want to do matching costumes. And you'd be like, oh, well, you want to be this character, I'll be this character that goes with them. Suddenly now I feel more of an investment in really making sure I get this done, because I've got a buddy who's not only going to also be cosplaying, but we'll complement each other. And that's something that can be really fun with clubs and groups or groups of friends or charity groups, things like that.
you don't want to disappoint them. It helps get over that executive dysfunction of, I don't know, and your brain will go, but we promised, and somehow that works.
Yeah, and one thing that we have talked about, we've been talking a lot about the executive functioning component of disability, but I know another way that my experience as a cosplayer has been impacted is, so I have POTS, or postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which basically boils down to I can get quite dizzy if I am not making sure I'm very hydrated, making sure I have enough electrolytes, and being careful about certain things. So I definitely have to consider sometimes that, like, if I'm getting overheated in a costume and walking around a con, that can be quite difficult. And so I know, like, it's been incredibly valuable to have cons like CONvergence, where I can retreat to my hotel room where I have a stash of Gatorade and make sure that I am kind of sufficiently able to recharge when I need to. And I know that that is something that is extremely important for, like, folks with chronic fatigue or even like chronic pain, and just that ability to kind of go take a break. So we love cons at hotels is part of the moral of my little spiel there, I guess. It's really nice and in some ways very preferable to the kind of walking around the convention center all day type experience, which can be really challenging, I know, for some people with, I feel like especially some of the invisible disabilities where you may not otherwise be able, you kind of have to arrange your own accommodations in certain ways with that, and one of them can be like having a room.
I think sometimes, like, especially like in that case, it's really important to have a buddy with you to keep you in check. Because I don't know how many times, like, it's easy for me to just go and pretty much dehydrate myself because I'm too busy having fun or just doing stuff. You know, I need someone to actually say, hey, listen, you need to eat, man. Like, you need to sit down and do this. So sometimes it's fun, it's better just to have that buddy system and have someone to actually keep you in check, because sometimes you might feel like, I don't want to be the party pooper and let my group down or whatever, but no, your health comes first, so you need someone to...
He's telling you to drink some water.
Thank you.
I was glad they provided us with water, that was very nice. So speaking of helpful accommodations on the part of the people arranging the con, I guess.
I don't have POTS, but I do get dehydrated really easily. So I think I found that, I don't know if people can see, let me quick show people. One very useful thing that I have for all my customers, besides my staff, is I bought a water bottle holder. I ordered it from Borsed, who made me my custom water bottle holder, so I can just carry water with me and more easily refill it. And I know I'm thirsty because, hey, it's empty. I should refill it and drink some water.
I really love trying to come up with ways to sneak bags or other useful ways of carrying things around into my costumes. Like I mentioned, I cosplay a character who plays the viola, and so I actually made a cloth case for carrying it around in that's decorated to look like something the character would own. It's not based off of an actual thing from the show. They're magic. They can just summon their instrument when they want. I wish I had that ability. But it was very nice because when I was making it, I went, I could put a really big pocket on this, which has been fantastic for many reasons, one of which is just having a pocket because I don't have any good ones in that costume. But it was also great for putting like little salt electrolyte chews in there that I could carry around the con and make sure that I had those. And so, I've done other costumes where even just going to the thrift store and finding a backpack that matches the costume a little bit more than bags you have around the house can actually be fantastic for feeling like it's a part of the costume and not like ruining your vibe or your look, but making you actually carry around your water bottle or some like salty snacks or, things that you might need with you or that your friends might need with them as well, because that's another thing that can be nice about groups. I remember another costume where I was wearing a big trench coat, and so my friends and I were walking around, and
we had this huge canteen that was just filled with water that I could wear on the inside, and you couldn't even see it because the trench coat covered it up. So I was just the group water carrier for that convention, and that was actually very fun. So,
Yeah, the more pockets you can hide in your costume, the better. That's basically the lesson.
Pockets are amazing.
Pockets are amazing. Hide them everywhere. I know I made a costume for my sister last year that had a big poofy skirt, and because I was making it for her, I went, I'm putting pockets in this. She was very grateful. Yes, it was very fun. But yeah, I think we had some good ones on this one. I might move to another question, which is kind of following up on some of this. I know you, especially Knightmage, were talking about feeling empowered in costume and all of that. So one thing that I was going to ask about and have us talk about is what are some ways that being disabled has actually enriched your cosplay experience? Because we definitely talk about ways to accommodate it, ways to make it work for you, but I feel like a lot of us actually have stories in which it led to a cool experience or has given us some really interesting perspective, and also in what ways does cosplay make you feel empowered? So I guess, the positive sides of all of this, and I'll let other people start if we want, but.
I'm going to go back to the representation,
Yeah.
and I think this goes for just pretty much anything, but so the one time it really made me, know that, wow, I guess, I am making an impact, is I did a school event, and I had done many school events before. I was Batman, and it was in the anti-bullying assembly, and so it was about 250 kids. So after the event, about 2 weeks later, one of the teachers contacted me and said, hey, the kids really loved it, they're still talking about it. There's this one kid though in particular is just enamored with you. So he's like, she's like, can you come back and just kind of do a one-on-one meet with him? I'm like, yeah, sure. So it's a predominantly white school. It was one black kid who just kept saying, oh my God, Batman looks like me. I can be Batman now. And that was the first time it hit me, wow, I guess you don't see that, and that kind of what made me want to actually do more characters that traditionally aren't seen, in one way. So I think that's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, I love experiences like that. I have had different ones, obviously, but I know one reason I like cosplaying Rain Whispers from the Owl House is there are not a lot of transgender characters out there. And when I have done that costume, have actually had some kind of similar experiences I'm part of a charity cosplay group that marches in the Twin Cities Pride Parade every year, and seeing that during the parade, and then also folks who have come up to me afterwards you've got, kids with their trans and non-binary flags draped around their shoulders who are coming up and saying, it meant a lot to see you, is always so cool. So I love hearing other people with stories like that, because I think it really is one of the really cool things in cosplay.
Go ahead.
So I do commissions from time to time, and no joke, I got a commission to do a custom red Power Ranger helmet probably 2 years ago, and I just sent it out 3 weeks ago. And it was just kind of the thing where I knew how to do it, I understood all the processes, but I hadn't done them before, and with ADHD, it's hard to, every time you get a big roadblock, I just wouldn't work on it for a couple weeks, or a month sometimes, and the fact that there'd be times where I'm just kind of depressed about it, and I'm just waiting for this guy to message me. He's like, "What? I can't wait any longer. This has got to be done." It never happened. He was so cool. I was always very upfront about I'm so sorry. I had these issues. I'm still working on it. This new thing happened. I repainted it 5 times most of my garage and my cars. All have a little fine red dust on it now that will never go away. But I sent it, I cannot believe it, it actually went in the mail and it's gone now, and it really, him, never giving up on me and canceling it, has helped my mental, focus so well on knowing that no matter what, I will finish it. It might take longer, it might not look as perfect, but you can always get it done still, and yeah, it was pretty life-changing. I mean, that just happened, so.
I don't really have anything specific for con, but I will dress up for Halloween anyways. And I love all the little kids in the neighborhood are like, oh my gosh, an adult will dress up in a full costume. Like I will wear my giant wings that I'm not wearing right now because they're getting away in the panel to hand out candy. And all the little kids the next year will come up with a more elaborate costume just to show me. And I love it because I want to encourage kids to, you don't have to, you have to grow older. You don't have to grow up and give up on having fun. That's the point of, CONvergence and, cosplays for me is let's have some fun with it. Let's, indulge our childhood self and keep being silly and fun.
Yeah, and another thing on the topic of representation in cosplay and specifically with disability is, so I personally do not use any mobility aids. It's just not something that's necessarily going to be particularly helpful with my own experiences, but I know my queer-platonic partner who's in the audience, she's gesturing with her bone cane, has done some really fun things with both decorating her cane this year and last year was also doing an Owl House character who does things with plant magic, and with her kind of walker that she uses to get around, had made this giant flower so that it was like she could sit in the middle of the flower and go around in that. And I had such a wonderful time going around with her and seeing how excited people got.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm nerding out just
Yeah,
thinking about how
well,
much fun that is.
I think the thing that,
Tomorrow.
yes.
I can't wait.
I think the thing that made me the happiest about it was we had a lot of people coming up who didn't even recognize the character and were just coming up because they loved seeing someone having so much fun with decorating something like a walker and like having that very visible mobility aid, somebody who is visibly disabled cosplaying, figuring out a way to have fun with it was something that some people were more excited about than recognizing a specific character. It would just be like, I don't know what you're from, but I love your flower, was something that we heard a lot. And I really love that. I love seeing people do really cool things with their wheelchairs. I love seeing just any way people work things like that in, and especially have a fun time with it. Frankly, I have loved seeing some of the creative things people have come up with masking, because obviously that's been so important for accessibility for many people as well these last few years. And I love seeing people having fun with, masks that match their costumes or are sewn out of the same material or have a fun little joke related to the character on them. Those have been delightful to see. It's just lovely to see people having fun with things like that.
No one cared who I was until I put on the mask.
I knew that was coming. Yeah, it's the creativity. And so I work with a magic wheelchair a lot, and just it's amazing to see what they come up with. And again, with the mask, like going through COVID, and then when conventions started coming back, I was actually really excited to see what everyone was doing.
Yeah.
That's just really cool. So yeah, I'm with you. I love seeing the creativity of people, what they can conjure up with what they have.
I think my favorite has been seeing people who cosplay characters with really big beards and mustaches who have stuck them to the outside of their masks. That's always a highlight.
I have to say, obviously I have my mobility aid that I decorated.
Mm-hmm.
I wrapped it in floral wire, glued it, and then this is actually a door pull that my fiance helped me drill in and glue on and then tie on. So I decided just because I have a staff for walking or a cane doesn't mean I can't have it fun and decorated. And I'm stealing your idea.
Yes.
That is awesome.
Well, and actually another thing now that I'm thinking about it related to the bone cane is, and this is somewhat comparable to kind of what I was talking about with how I've enjoyed cosplaying, a trans character and being able to represent a part of my personal identity. But I know the costume that she's doing today is a character from the Locked Tomb book series who is actually also disabled, And I've seen multiple people do that same costume, all of whom have had like visible mobility aids, or clearly are other people who have chosen, who think it's really fun to be able to cosplay a disabled character. So that kind of representation in fiction translating to representation in cosplay is really fun and delightful to see as well.
Actually, I think it goes the other way too. So I literally just saw, there's a Spider-Man character, and it's a female character from like an alternate Earth, but she has mobility aids, and what she actually uses those for is she shoots her webs from that. It's a really cool character,
cool.
but I honestly believe that literally probably the artist saw some cosplayer, incorporate their mobility aids, with the costume and just got the idea. That's literally how Miles Morales became. Like, literally, Brian McBennett saw a black Spider-Man costume and said, why not? So I think, actually, us doing that creativity actually will inspire artists to actually bring them to that.
Yeah, no, it's all about the visibility. I'm trying to remember now, and I unfortunately don't know my superheroes as well as many people do, but I think there was actually something with the new Spider-Verse movie where there was a character that was included that was originally a, there was some original character that kind of graduated to that point with a mobility aid. I don't remember the exact story with that now, and I wish I
How
remember.
cool would that be? It could happen
do we
one day
have,
to you.
do we have
Think
someone
about that.
who,
Well, and I read it on Tumblr, but yeah, it was like somebody drew fan art after the first Spider-Verse movie, and it was like based on their own wheelchair experiences.
Yes.
And then they got put in his background character, the new one.
Okay, yeah.
And like the studio, I think actually paid him a little bit of money, I don't know.
yeah, no, I now that you mentioned that, I believe I read something about that as well. So yeah, exactly what you're talking about. We're having more kind of visibly disabled, or people of color, or trans people, or other cosplayers that stand out for one reason or another can lead to diversity in characters in fiction as well, which is pretty cool.
So just in case everybody didn't hear them.
Oh yes, because we're not mic'd.
Yeah, they said they read on Tumblr about it. There was a user who drew themselves in Spider-Man outfits in their wheelchair, and the studios saw it and thought it was really cool and put them in as a background character and gave them some money for it. And so it's part of the official that they actually have somebody in wheelchair in the Spider-Verse. I'm not sure they actually a Spider-Man or just a background character.
They're a Spider-Verse.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
they're
believe
Spider-Person.
I believe
Okay.
it's Sun Spider, I think is the name.
Oh,
So
Sun Spider.
Everybody can look up Sun Spider and learn more about that after the panel, I guess.
Just wanted to make sure everybody
Yes,
could hear.
no, that was a good point, because I can hear you quite well from the front row, but in case others did not. So, if we're good for another question, does that sound okay? If you could share some top tips or tricks with people who have disabled experiences similar to yours, what would some of your advice be? I know we've been going over a few of them already, like the water bottles, the backpacks, but I feel like all of us probably have some hacks that we've come up with over the years.
I would say that as far as like ADHD and just like trying to break down a bigger project and do tinier little projects that you can do is like one of the best things that I've done. Even if just like, so you have your list and you say, okay, this one will be for 5 minutes, and then you can go for a lot longer, but you always do that 5 minutes a day. And sometimes you'll go on these huge tangents of creativity and building. I don't know, one of Punish Props is on YouTube. They do a lot of like EVA foam stuff. They do patterns, and you can buy it. You can like make a PDF and print out. It's a little cosplay handbook, and it has enough pages where you can jot down all your little ideas. It's got like a figure you can write down your dimensions, and it's so nice. It's a couple bucks online. I highly suggest it. It helps with organization so much.
Yeah, I know one thing that I was thinking about with this as well, because I know it's been useful to me, and I think could be especially useful to other people as well, is making your costumes as modular as possible so you are not just trapped in them. Because if you are somebody who is at risk of potentially overheating or needing to take things off, you know, it can be really tempting, and I fall prey to this for sure, to be like, okay, I'm gonna make everything, you know, as full outfits, as, you know, like all of the layers, when in reality, like, you can have things being removable with like magnets or snaps as opposed to necessarily sewing them all up, or, you know, even I mentioned I had made a dress for my sister and for her costume, partially because I know she was worried about the heat in it. There was a jacket that went over it, and so I actually made the dress sleeveless because if the jacket was going to be over it, there was no reason to have that additional layer on underneath, and I think that probably saved her a little bit of overheating in that costume, and things like that, where like you can build things a little bit differently for your own comfort. It's like, always do that, unless you have a specific reason not to.
I also am prone to overheating and hypermobility, so I'm very easily able to sprain my ankles. So I found, just a general advice, regardless if you ever have mobility, good shoes. Good shoes are a lifesaver, and if you want to have a shoe that looks like a platform, but like me, you can't, just cheat and use cardboard. And I also, linen and cotton are your friends.
Linen especially.
Polyester does not breathe. Silk can breathe. It just depends. Like this shirt is silk. I purposely got it a little bit bigger so that the sleeves would gap a little and that it's looser in the back so it can breathe, and got a cotton linen skirt that's looser so I can get airflow and not overheat as easily.
I was wearing a costume yesterday that had multiple layers of wool, and it was actually not that bad because I had an underlayer of linen.
Oh, okay.
Because that stuff is magic.
Yeah, I think it goes with actually what you were saying. I know, like, we jokingly say, like, you know, cosplay is pain, but don't be in pain. Like, it's easy to get hung up on accuracy, or, you know, I need this specific fabric, or I need to do this, blah, blah, but, you know, your comfort and your health comes first. So just make sure you're comfortable. That's something I always do. Like, it doesn't have to be accurate to something. I don't need this a specific material, whatever. As long as I'm comfortable, my feet are good, and I can go to the bathroom.
Yeah, that's another thing that's good to make sure.
And you can walk through hallways. That's a big one too.
Yeah, and visibility can be something to be careful of with that too. I know that's when having a buddy can be really helpful if you've got a costume that is going to be hard to see out of. Spotters.
The buddy system is just useful. Big question.
Yeah, I was going to say we're getting to towards the end here. What do we want to open it up to audience questions?
I think so. Anybody in the audience have any questions for us or comments? Anybody?
Wulver?
Yeah.
With glasses in the back?
Yeah, I just started to get into like shoe modification. That's one thing that I really haven't had a need for until more recently. And I'm just kind of curious as to what your guys' experience have been with modifying shoes, and is there any kind of tips or tricks that work for that? Because like you said, the feet comfort is, you know, utmost going to get me to around to the cons the most since you've traveled so hard.
Socks.
I have a really personal experience. My housemate and I here yesterday, they were Bilbo, and they needed, you know, useful, comfortable shoes. So what we did is we took their old slippers that weren't comfortable anymore. We cut out the bottom, we just glued the edges, and then elastic along the bottom. So a lot of it, like if you see like, oh, these, you know, like slip-on shoes would be cool. Like, oh, I want, you know, feet for like, you know, a costume like for a dog or a cat or anything like that. But you need really good shoes. Elastic. Just make something that slips on. Think of it like you're making something for a little kid who's gonna take it off. It sounds silly, but it's a great mindset to look at. of how can I be lazy and make it as easy as possible helps me, I found.
Also, I want to hear more about this sock tip.
Yes, what's
Like boot covers. Like honestly, if you have a good pair of boots or shoes, heels, whatever that is really comfortable for you, instead of like trying to find other colors or paint those, just make boot covers. Boot covers will save you. Love boot covers.
Yeah, I know I actually just, these are not necessarily going to be good for feet, but I just made a pair of shoes for a costume that were kind of medieval turn shoe style, which if you don't know are sewn and it's thin leather, so not a lot of support, probably not a great choice for everyone, but you can make things like that for covers too, for shoes. So that's what you're talking about, where you kind of sew a thing out of like thin leather, or I know for a lot of superhero costumes, sometimes it'll be more like the spandex kind of stretchy fabrics. I do more things with kind of leather boot type things, but you can basically take your comfy shoe and cover it up with something that looks like a less comfy type of shoe, and those are a great hack.
You'll be so happy, and it's a lot easier than it looks. And there's a lot of really good, simple DIYs on like YouTube and even WikiHow I found, for just look up how does the mom do it. That's literally how I found quite a few things. Was how do I make this costume for my kid? And that's kind of where I went for with my ADHD and being, having limited ability to do things. So can I do it? If a mom can do it, oh, my kid decided to do this the day before, then if the mom can make it, I can.
Kabuli Cosplay actually has a lot of good tutorials on boot covers.
What was that?
Kabuli Cosplay.
Kabooey?
Kabooey.
Yeah. Kabuli Cosplay. She's a German cosplayer. She has a lot of tutorials for fabric boot covers and armor for like Warblood
and film and stuff, Fox and all of her stuff.
I believe they actually put out a book on making boot covers specifically, and I was trying to remember exactly which cosplayer it was that did that, so I'm glad you remembered, because
That's good to know. I didn't know that one existed.
Yeah.
Any other questions from anybody?
Yes, in the yellow.
Do you have any like tips, or I guess top tips on how to add like secret storage into your cosplays, like pockets or pouches that you can get your stuff easily out of? So
when I made the dress for my sister that I mentioned, because it had a fairly full skirt, this is something that if you're doing a very tight costume, it's going to show, but if you've got something a little bit looser and you're sewing it, basically anywhere that you are sewing a side seam, you can leave a part of it open and sew a pocket into it. Again, keeping in mind how large that pocket is, how loose it is, but especially if you're making like a jacket or a big poofy skirt or something where there's a lot of kind of loose material, absolutely possible to hide pockets in there. That is a top tip for sure. You can even make some pretty big pockets. And yeah, finding the tip that I mentioned about trying to find like a bag or make a bag that really matches your costume somehow is the kind of thing where like, even if the character doesn't canonically have anything like it, if you can like, one thing I did when I made my viola case was I put a bunch of patches on it that looked like things that that character would have. And so suddenly that's a fun prop that people are going, oh my gosh, you made something like really like creative, even though it's not something the character canonically has. So like taking a backpack and putting like fun little patches on it that remind you of the character, things like that, is also a totally valid route to go. And sometimes, especially like if you're making the patches or something like that, people will be super impressed, and then you've just got an extra prop.
I've learned also a fanny pack goes on every costume, so.
It's true. I think more and more people are doing that, and I support this revolution in cosplay.
They're coming back.
I love that even though my Maleficent as my character, for me, I have a belt pouch. Doesn't matter that the character doesn't. I need to be able to access things like my inhaler. So, you know, again, if you can't find one, you can make a belt pouch if you want to, or you can buy just a dice bag, and then to make a belt pouch out of it, instead you just have a little strap of fabric on the back.
This is
vinyl.
also kind of a silly one, but I've got a couple of costumes where I wear a pair of boots that I have hidden materials in the boots. So like my phone tucks in there. I know I definitely included some of the, again, I mentioned I have sometimes little electrolyte shoes that I need when I am getting a little dehydrated. When I was doing a parade in one of those costumes, tucked that in the boot. So you can only do that if they're not too tight, but if you've got a pair that's a little bit looser at the top, because my legs are not, they're pretty skinny, so sometimes there's a lot of extra material with boots. That actually is a hack that has worked for me. Yes, can I get from the flannel?
When you have cosplay elements that are like less mutable for yourself, so maybe you've got glasses that don't really fit with your character and you can't do contacts, or maybe you've got a mobility aid that you can't really decorate because you need it most of the time. What sort of things do you like to do to either work around that or have confidence to keep cosplaying with that?
I think it depends on what it is. So, for like, just in general, I would still say, like, if you need your glasses and you want to be Superman, like, how come Superman can't have glasses on Earth number 448? Right? So just wear the glasses, it's fine. But, like, for things, if you can't do contacts, you can always just, like, paint your eyelid white, and then, you know, when you need to take a photo, close your eyes, it's gonna look like you have white eyes. If you really can't do, like, body makeup, wear a bodysuit, and then you can paint the bodysuit, and it's just gonna look like skin, you know? So there's little small things.
Glasses are another one too, where I've definitely just taken them off for photos. So like if somebody is like, oh, your costume looks really great, can I get a picture? It'll be fine for me for like an actual minute while posing for a picture to not have them on. Otherwise, I cannot see without them. So, and another thing that I would say is kind of similar to my bag advice. If you can find ways to do things that remind you of the character with those things, that can be really good. So say your regular pair of glasses doesn't really look like something they would wear. Maybe you're doing a fantasy character and you've got really big chunky plastic glasses that you usually wear. Finding some place to buy frames for relatively cheap, like I really like Zenny for glasses. That's where I got these, which are actually not my regular glasses. They are ones that are, I'm cosplaying a character who wears glasses, so it's not quite the same as what you're asking about, but my regular glasses looked less like what I was imagining for him. So I bought a relatively cheap pair of frames off of Zenny, and I love that this is a costume I can do without contacts.
I can't wear contacts at all. I've tried and discovered I was allergic to them. It didn't matter what I was doing. That was an interesting year. I have had glasses since I was 6, so I decided if I get a really bad headache really fast at that point, with, you know, instead of taking them off, and I'm too broke to afford a different pair. I mean, then it isn't expensive. I just couldn't afford them. I just decided, why not? As I said, just because the character doesn't wear them, who cares? If anybody else doesn't like it, that sounds like their problem.
Yeah, and you will definitely still get people that appreciate your costume, even if there's something about it that isn't 100% canonically accurate. I've been asked for pictures in costumes that I was like, okay, I mean, I don't like this part of it, or maybe this part, and then people still love it. After you've done this, one more question. Oh yeah. The last thing I was going to say with regards to, you mentioned like mobility aids that you use all the time, so you don't necessarily want to modify. There are different levels of modification, because there's modification in the sense of like really overhauling it and changing it, but I know the bone cane that I keep gesturing towards, that's fastened down with hair ties. So she can take that off and have her cane be normal again. And the flower that you made was also totally removable. It was just something that sat on top of the walker.
And zip ties are useful too.
Yeah, so anything that you can use to kind of temporarily modify is always also a really good way to go, because there's lots of non-permanent modifications that you can make, which, you know, you're just dressing up your mobility aid like you for the con.
And also, the most important thing is that you have the mobility aids that you
Yeah.
need.
Yes.
And so, like, you don't need to modify them to cosplay, and, you know, especially since it takes effort, and if you're disabled, that can be difficult.
Yes.
Prioritizing the things that are going to be most important to you in your costume.
Yes, no, that is 100% the most important part. I was mostly just being like, by the way, did you know that
Yes.
there's really simple ways to do that are, but no, absolutely. Just like the glasses, just like we were talking about with being able to modify costumes quickly so that you're comfortable and things like that. The single most important part is that you can wear the costume and be comfortable. Where was our last question? Okay, yes.
For those that go to a lot of different cons, my wonder is have you been noticing more accessibility at some of these other cons? I know CONvergence has really worked hard over the last few years to make accessibility more important. And I think of things like the masquerade, or like different things, even being a panelist on something like this, and you only have steps to get up. Is there any cons that you've attended that seem to do really well with, especially around mobility? Any cons that do really well at supporting the cosplayers?
More fan-run cons do, like CONvergence, non-profit cons and stuff. So they're more about the community, more so than, I hate to even just throw them out, but like Repop and Galaxy, and while they put on good shows, they're kind of behind the curve on listening to the needs of the community, you know what I mean? So really, honestly, I think shows like CONvergence and just like the very like fan-run cons, those are the best ones that, you know.
I haven't been to any other cons, because I love CONvergence. I can't afford any others, so I can't speak to any of the other ones for you from a mobility standpoint.
I would say that I think CONvergence is probably the best one I've seen. There have been little things that have really stood out to me, like if you go into the dealer's room in the Artist's Alley, they've got really wide, and the art show as well, really wide aisles that are much better for people that are using wheelchairs or large mobility walkers than some of the really tight, packed aisles you can get at artist alleys and things like that elsewhere. And I definitely also second that for various reasons, fan-run cons like CONvergence, or I've been to Dragon Con, which is big and crazy, and so parts of it are, I think, a little bit harder for them to handle, but is another one that has a little bit more of the focus on the community. Those are the cons I prefer to go to anyway, and they're definitely better about some of that stuff.
Honestly, and I hate to say it again, it's usually because a lot of those cons are held in like hotels and small convention centers. There's more of a liability than actually having it at a giant, convention center like New York Comic Con or something like that. So there's a little bit more pressure to have that accessibility.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I think, for multiple reasons that you get that, but I agree with what you were saying.
I have to say, I have found that CONvergence has been working really hard. I agree with the last couple of years to get even better. Like, they were good, but they've been working hard at being as the best that they can. Is there any other questions or comments from anybody? I think
we're probably good. I don't know if we've got any closing remarks. Did everybody say thank you to our guest of honor, who it was really fun to get to have on the panel with us. Not to put you on the spot, but I wanted to acknowledge that at least once, because it's cool that you were joining us for this conversation.